Grinders, welcome back to the NFL Pick 6 show, sponsored by Thrive. Week 15, the Quinceañera show. We're getting there. We're down the stretch as far as the regular season. As usual, Rich Hribar, sharp football analysis, and we have John Daigle, 4 for 4 bet spreads, 2 of the absolute best in the business. Gonna break down this 10-game slate, the main slate. And you know what? John's gonna be nice. He's gonna give us a little touch as far as what's going on the 3-game Saturday slate. Like last week, we had 6 teams on bye. They're kind of sort of basically on bye anyway. We're talking about main slate because it's still just a 10-game main slate. And it's not great. It's not great, Bob. But you know what? We're all working with the same pieces.
How many times have we said that?
Well, I mean, you know what it is? It feels like this week is like, hey, if you hated last week, hold my beer. Week 15 is saying hold my beer. To week 14. Because it's kind of rough. No totals above 49.5, as far as I can tell. Houston is a part of that game, by the way, which is, there you go. That voice you heard, of course, Rich Hribar. Rich, you won the 4-man last week. We'll talk movies later on in the show as well.
On the board. Papa said some good lineups last week.
Yeah. Well, what was your? Well, I guess we'll talk about your lineup. But the lineup you beat us with on FanDuel, I think it was really strong. It would have beat won like 10-man and 20-man contests.
Yeah. Papa won some money last week.
How did we celebrate? Little sizzler?
we wrote about a bunch of football games again this week. We'll try to recoup some of that Christmas cash. Yeah, I mean, listen, I was blown away that a couple guys, that conviction plays that were really low, and Jerry Jeudy especially, and then Miles Sanders, definitely. Those guys I owe those guys some juice this week.
You talked about them on Wednesday as well.
Yeah.
The Jeudy thing, I think, is that people can only stomach so much Denver, and they already had Dulcich and they already had Hinton, and they're all attached to Russ Wilson, and we want him to get better, but like he hasn't been spectacular this year. I think that's what it was. I feel like that's what it was. But like in the old vacuum, in the Hoover, was he 5-5 on DK, Jerry Jeudy, and like in a matchup where you have to assume they're going to be playing some catch up the entire game. That's what happened. So
Bill Sutton, the Chiefs are terrible against wide receivers. Games, it was all, and plus everyone was playing Dulcich.
Yeah.
Literally, we talked about Dulcich went a whole month underperforming without Jeudy, and it was just him and Sutton, and he had one game, and people were like, "Oh, we're in. We're all back in on this guy." And I was like, "Wait a second. Like, hold on. You guys see the previous month?
It's the Evan Ingram of Week 15. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, and also we gave Daigle a bunch of grief last week for picking Titans Jaguars. It was the nuts.
He was right.
Trevor Lawrence stacks won everything. I played a few Trevor Lawrences in the bomb and in the 222, but I had Christian Kirk literally the worst guy to stack him with. Yeah. But Trevor Lawrence stacks with Derrick Henry and Okonkwo were the nuts. So
I had Zay Jones, Okonkwo, Skinny, but I had too much Geno doubles that did fine, but they weren't enough compared to the other stacks out there.
No, I mean Lawrence went nuts. And Evan Ingram absolutely went bananas. Because he's been on FanDuel, Evan Ingram's been sub 5K for like 6 weeks, just cruising. Yeah. And then he didn't have a career game just for himself. Like he had a career tight end game. Like dudes like Gronk and Kelsey don't even have games like that on their resume. Like, insane.
Who's going to be this week's Evan Ingram? I'm sure. John, you want to tease the people? Do you have this week's Evan Ingram?
Do the tight ends first this week.
Just get him out of the way early.
We do focus on. I forgot to introduce the new title to our show. It's the NFL Pick 6 show, sponsored not just by Thrive but by the Detroit Lions. Because as always, the Detroit Lions are one of the 3 main teams we focus on. Whether they're in one of the 3 main games, we talk about that game from forwards, backwards, all sorts of different angles. Then we give our favorite plays as far as quarterbacks, receivers, running backs. We mentioned some tight ends. I shouldn't say our favorite plays necessarily, but dudes that play the tight end position. We'll acknowledge their existence in games that do not include those first 3 we talk about. And you know what, John? The Lions have earned it. They've earned the spot. They're in New York. They're favorites this week on the road, where I'm told they've been horrendous on the road. They're 1-point favorites at the Jets. 44.5 is the total. You know what? Well, you want to talk the Lions, you want to talk the Jets, open up wherever you want. But that's game 1, John. Go for it.
The Lions and Jets have to make the slate since Sunday's 10-gamer is fairly condensed. There is a lot of bad offense that's going to happen on Sunday. And so I think we've correctly picked at least the 3 games we're looking at. There are a couple other offenses will sprinkle along the way. I'm even concerned about Bengals Bucks getting there, just from what we've seen from the Bucks the past month, has been atrocious. But for the Lions, this is the most worried. Like, this is a spot we are worried about for the first time in the last month, because as you mentioned, we do have these Jared Goff home road splits to worry about. In 5 games now at home or on the road, Jared Goff has thrown 2 touchdowns to 4 picks compared to 20 touchdowns at home and only 3 interceptions. And 2 of those matchups on the road were against the Bears and Giants with Amon-Ra and DeAndre Swift healthy. So it's not like we can necessarily make an excuse for him. The one game you would maybe take out of that sample would be that Patriots game where literally everyone was injured right before their bye in New England. And even the Patriots were favored, and pretty much Vegas knew that the Lions stood no chance in that one. I just look at the spot now, traveling on the road, their first road game since November 20th as well. It's going to be nearly a month since the Lions have left Ford Field. And there are just a lot of question marks to worry about here because of those circumstances, because of the weather. Whereas we don't worry about the Jets' offensive side of the ball against this still terrible Lions defense that is leaking production, at least still through the air.
Yeah, you mentioned that still through the air because I think their run defense has been pretty solid. And Knight seems to have been what's your thoughts here, John, as far as the Jets' backfield? Knight, Carter, Johnson, that split. Knight's been pretty good. Is he going to be good going forward?
I would think he's going to lead in touches. That's what we saw last week. Michael Carter had 4 carries for 0 yards, and then on his 5th carry, he fumbled. So I think there is an out here for Zonovan Knight to handle even a larger share of the team's backfield touches. But as we mentioned, and Rich actually touched on this last week as well when we were discussing Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, like how are we getting unique around the Vikings in that slate, knowing that we wanted to target that game. Now we see the Lions haven't allowed a single running back to go over 75 yards since their bye in week 8. They're just basically putting the clamps down, whereas opponents know that, and that's why quarterbacks in that time are averaging 37 pass attempts per game for them. And then you look at Mike White in this Jets offense the last 3 games with him under center, he's averaging 43 passes. Like, they have created a Mike White-centric offense, assuming he's at full health. And this Lions defense has still been just as bad on the road, despite not being as up-tempo. 25.8, 6.1 yards per play allowed per game on the road as well. So, we just have a lot of faith in the Jets through the air, and I question the ceiling for the Lions in this one.
By the way, 3rd fastest game this week as far as game plays. If you check out Derek Carty, shout out Derek Carty, the blitz, the game level factors, the 3rd most expected plays in this game, 44.5 total. Rich, jump on in here. Feel free to give your thoughts as far as the Jets from a running situation or just the Jets as a whole, the passing game as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a spot for the Jets. It's a litmus test game for the Lions, who obviously have gotten a lot of media buzz. They're one of the hottest teams. So you look at the Lions run out here, and it's one thing to beat up on the Dolphins and the Bears and the Giants, and they did have a spot against the Bills where they actually were competitive on Thanksgiving. But they played the Jaguars and the Vikings last 2 weeks, 2 teams we picked on. So this is kind of a similar spot we're in with the Dolphins, right? A few weeks ago when they were going to San Francisco. The Dolphins were on a run where they were beating up on literally all these same teams. The Bears, the Browns, all those teams, the Lions themselves. And then they went into San Francisco and, kind of got, taken out of their game plan. And then again on Sunday night. So this is kind of the big litmus test game because Jets defense we know is inherently good. And we know that, we're not going to get ahead of our skis on Jared Goff. Even the last 2 weeks we picked our spots. We were good. Let's get in and get out while the getting was good. But yeah, that's kind of where we are with the Lions. They're like, are we going to run any guys back here is the thing. So all the values on the other side, it's on the Jet side, whether you want to play Zonovan Knight and I think you still can, entertain him. Lions have been good, but what they've really been doing is just giving up all this passing volume, like you alluded to. Since their bye, they have allowed the most receptions, the most receiving yards to opposing wide receivers. It's really just funneled everybody to another weak spot of their team. Like the Titans are doing this too, because the Titans have we'll talk about them on the show. They have all these injuries. And it's like, dude, be worse against the run. Like you might be better if you just give up some rushing yardage. Like just give up some runs. Like it would be cool.
Yeah.
Because the Lions have improved so much against the run that it's just like teams are like, all right, well, I guess we have to throw. And the worst part of their defense is still their secondary. DraftKings refuses to price Garrett Wilson up. Like if you go to any of like your optimizers, and RotoGrinders has a great one if you guys want to use it, and sort by ceiling. Don't try to optimize because you're gonna get median projections, but sort by ceiling and look at the pricing of all the guys on DraftKings and tell me who stands out. Like Garrett Wilson is just getting there. He's already been a top 15 scorer in 4 of his past 6 games. He's got a massive ceiling. He has been targeted 31% of the time on the team against man coverage, and the Lions play man coverage to the 5th highest rate. He's been targeted on 29.3% of his routes against man coverage, 19.7 versus zone. So you got significant splits there. And the dude just barely, I think he just got the 6K on DraftKings, just absolutely lagging. And then we're going to see Elijah Moore get some burn. Like we talked about last week, but now he had even a greater run out because Corey Davis went out with a concussion after just 9 snaps. He ran a route on 92% of the dropbacks, and the matchup is phenomenal because he's still playing pretty much in the slot, and now he'll put to play in 2 wide receiver sets. And the Lions, like we talk about weekly, are just getting flooded by opposing slot receivers, and he's 3,600 on DraftKings, so he'll be a popular pay down guy.
What do we know on a Wednesday night as far as Davis? Because obviously he's still questionable with concussion. We're projecting him in, and the reason why I'm asking, I did run those optimals. The second highest ownership guy on DK is, of course, Garrett Wilson. This is the first week since I can't remember where Amon-Ra is not like in the top as far as lock and load. He's actually only hitting 4% of optimals on DK. And again, Wednesday night, grain of salt, yada, yada. And on FanDuel, the same deal. He's hitting 1%. But what's interesting here, Rich, 3 different jet receivers. We're projecting Davis in. 40% have Wilson in it, 17% of Elijah Moore, and 16% of Corey Davis. And like you said, Detroit's not getting a ton of run back, which is, it's a tough matchup. They're outdoors, and I don't really know what to do with the Lions because Amon-Ra is like the easy one generally, but now he's getting downgraded because of this matchup, I suppose.
I mean, the Jets have been so good defensively. They don't have the greatest resume. They've got the Bills twice on there, but we know like the strength of this team, and the Lions kind of don't match up with it, which is why it's a really good litmus test for the Lions and Ben Johnson, who's getting all the praise here.
John, what's your thoughts as far as these receivers? Do we know, I guess, about Davis, or we're in limbo?
Listen, I just assume anyone that has a concussion's out the next week until told otherwise.
Yeah. And Davis was DNP on Wednesday, still in the concussion protocol. That's the way I'm handling it too. And if that's the case, then we're really just asking how are people going to handle it, knowing they want to play both Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore on DraftKings in particular, where they are the cheapest.
Jameson Williams got loose last week in the secondary. Nobody was on him, like for a 40-yard touchdown. I think that's the only catch he had, and I want to say like 19% of snaps. Like he increased from 11% to 19%. Still probably not all that relevant. I don't know when
that's 6 pass routes.
Yeah, is that jump going to happen or just not going to happen?
I think it's slow burn here. Slow burn.
DeAndre Swift, he's fetch, right? Man, that's not going to happen. We love the talent, but you got to have the opportunities, and that's just few and far. I guess he's getting some, but I don't know if he's getting enough for me to be excited about him. And it's still a 3-man backfield there. Justin Jackson's not going away, it appears. Rich, your thoughts as far as the Lions? Are the Lions kind of a fade this week? And the way we're talking, is it kind of weird that the Lions are favored? Should they not be favored in this game?
I kind of like the Jets here in this spot. That's not my professional gambler's opinion. I don't know, not some kind of shark here, but I do like the Jets in this side. I think it's set up. I think this is set up for a comeback game. Like I said, it reminds me literally like 2 weeks ago the Dolphins. Like this really feels like a similar spot. This
is not a 5-star, 10-star lock in the play of the week.
Yeah. But I do like the Jets. I think that just from a matchup stance, Dean, I say styles dictate fights. I feel like this is stylistically where the Jets can succeed. I don't think that the Lions are really going to slow them down with Mike White. Now, if Zach Wilson plays, hey, all bets are off. But I do think the Jets can slow the Lions down.
Wouldn't Flacco play in front of Wilson?
No, they already elevated. They said that
really?
Wilson's the backup this week.
Oh, well, yeah. I wouldn't bet the Jets then. I would. Does that surprise you? I did not see that news. That surprises me.
I mean, listen, they're trying to protect the Fabergé egg here. They're trying to coax something out of this. But listen, Zach Wilson ain't happening.
Yeah, that's the real fetch. I shouldn't have called the opposite.
You can also give your lock of the week in 17 days, Rich, since you will be able to sports bet legally in 17 days.
That is true. I will be.
It sounds like they're moving it up from January 1 just for the Georgia bowl game. That way everyone in Ohio can bet.
Yeah. Shout out Al, my bookie.
It was a good run.
It was a good run.
It was a real good run, Al, for you.
Al's not happy. He cannot be happy.
Yeah, I don't think so.
There's a lot of views, right? I imagine there's a lot of views out there. Richard, John, you're in a state where you can gamble legally right now?
Yeah, Illinois. Pretty much every book at your handheld device. Not to mention, I live in Lincoln Park, which is like 6 blocks away from the actual FanDuel bar sports book. So yeah,
you ever go there? Put pants on?
Oh yeah, I meet up with like Waz from Fantasy Life, Andy Behrens from Yahoo. Like we'll all go out for the games there some Thursday nights.
Look at you name dropping. That sounds like good times though. I've never been
people who live in Chicago.
What about Silva? Is that not happening?
Silva's in the burbs, so he ain't making that drive on a late Thursday night because that would mean he'd be staying with me. So I'm definitely not even telling him I'm going.
You've had enough. You guys hit the quota as far as living with each other.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
We need a season off. He is hosting a Christmas or the night before Christmas Eve party at his place, which I'm really worried about since there are 11 games the next day. Very worried.
I guess Christmas is on Saturday, I suppose.
It is. And they put 11 games on Saturday. Dean,
Christmas is Sunday.
Curious. Oh, yeah. Christmas Eve is on Saturday.
Yeah.
Christmas is on Sunday. There's 11 games on Christmas Eve and 3 games on Sunday because the NFL hates us.
Oh, I didn't know this. Yeah. I'm always focused on exactly what's like one day in front of me. Interesting. Yeah. John, you're building a stack in this game. How would you go about doing it?
It would have to be, if Mike White starts, it'd have to be Mike White double stacks. Probably still with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like Rich said, it's been 2 routes and 6 routes in these 2 games for Jameson Williams. And then last week, he didn't even run a route. Like the backup safety just lost the play, had no idea what he was doing. And Jameson Williams just ran right by him. So, yeah, I think it would be Amon-Ra St. Brown. Not really any confidence in anyone else. It seems like, Jamal Williams is already depending on solely on touchdowns to get there. But if we don't think the Lions offense is going to carry a lot of weight, then Jamal Williams definitely ain't getting there. And then we have to consider DeAndre Swift's 18 touches 2 weeks ago, just a blip on the radar, considering he's been at single-digit touches in 5 of his last 6 games now. So not a lot to trust here, honestly.
Anything else to add here, Rich, or shall we move on?
Let's keep moving.
Dallas, Jacksonville. Dallas coming off that horrendous game versus the Texans. Jacksonville is thriving. Good game against, that was Detroit, wasn't it? I think it was Detroit. I remember those games correctly. They were good against somebody. They were at home. They're 4-point underdogs. This, I mentioned the blitz from Derek Carty. This game actually is projected to have the most plays. Rich, how do we feel about Jacksonville and Dallas? Lawrence has looked great. Dallas, tough defense, obviously. What's the read here?
Yeah, this game's got some potential here to shoot out. The Jags defense was, we talked about them last week too. I mean, this defense is deplorable. Ryan Tannehill kind of got there last week for Daigle. He wasn't the worst. The ceiling wasn't there, but he was still a solid play if you streamed him in your season-long league.
Considering he didn't have Treylon Burks and still got the 18 points with a fumble and an interception, we will take it. We'll take it as a small victory.
Yeah, but the Jags, since week 7, 31st in yards allowed per play. Only the Bears are worse. Over that same span, the Cowboys are number 1 in the NFL since Dak came back. So, and then we got the Dallas defense. There's an interesting angle here because Lawrence is another one of these guys that's been a little bit of a paper tiger. He's only faced one defense in the top 15 in passing points allowed over his past 8 games. And that was the Broncos. He was the QB 28 that week. He was awful. Dallas is 6th in the league in that category. But Dallas has a bunch of injuries. They had a flood of injuries in the secondary over the past weeks. Anthony Brown gets hurt against the Colts. Jordan Lewis is hurt. Jaron Kearse gets hurt before the game last week. Trayvon Diggs leaves last game. He comes back. He's probably going to play as a thumb injury. I assume he's going to play through it. So they've got some young guys playing in the secondary here that could open this thing up, right? Like when you look on the surface level and you're like, well, the Cowboys defense is pretty good, but back end cluster injuries are starting to happen. So we could see some things open up. The Texans were able to move the football through the air on them. The mighty Texans, where Chris Moore is, listen, I played Nico Collins for 4 damn weeks in a row and got nothing out of these targets. And then Chris Moore comes in and just and catches all of them.
He was Devontae Adams. He was amazing.
Yeah, incredible. So there is some opportunity here for, I think, people look on the surface like, I don't know if I want to touch Dallas, and a little hesitation. Maybe the injuries catch up here and we see the Jags guys kind of get hot. And there's an open here for the Jags to have some good passing value.
John, the Jags?
Yeah, and in this little stretch since week 9, I will say, Trevor Lawrence hasn't been pressured on over 30% of his dropbacks, or he was only pressured on over 30% of his dropbacks in one of those games, and that was against the Lions. And yeah, he was injured against the Lions, but he also didn't miss the possession. He came back and then, of course, won everyone that slate just last week against the Titans. Also, 8 of Lawrence's 10 touchdowns in that span have come inside the 20. And since they're bye, and maybe the injuries actually just cancel this out anyhow, but since Dallas is bye, they've allowed the league's fewest pass attempts and completions inside the red zone, been one of the better defenses there. And so, yeah, I think it's enough to question the Jaguars offense where, as Rich said, as we've talked about on the show before, we don't question the Cowboys offense because they are facing the Jaguars defense. It is literally that simple. Dallas is averaging 35 points per game since Prescott returned from injury. Jaguars are allowing 22 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks since week 6. Only Russell Wilson hasn't finished as the quarterback 1 against them in that span. And even in the last month, the Jacksonville's permitting the highest rate of passing touchdowns, including a 62% completion rate with a league high 9 touchdowns inside the red zone. So I think we're getting, Dallas's team total right now is at 26.5. I think we're seeing a 30 ball here, at least for them. Whereas, yeah, I do question what the Jaguars are going to bring on their side.
All right, Rich, talking about these Cowboys projected for 26-point team total, potentially can get to 30 or so. How are we attacking the Jags with the Cowboys?
Yeah, I love Dak this week for the reasons Daigle kind of, highlighted. I mean, look at some of the guys that have had spike weeks against the Jaguars, right? Like Tannehill, like I said, 18 points there, but Matt Ryan had 27 points against them. Daniel Jones, 29. Goff, 22. Like, it's not like they're getting beat by Mahomes and Burrow and Jalen Hurts. Like, these are guys that are straight streaming quality guys, and they're putting up big numbers. So I think it's a good bounce back spot for Dak. He hasn't played bad, but he hasn't been completely sharp. The turnovers have been there. He's had spots. And also there has to be some give with these running back touchdowns. There's no way that Tony Pollard and Ezekiel can continue to get away with this. Jesus, man. Dude, since Zeke's come back, they have 11 touchdowns. For a combo backfield, that's absurd. Absolutely nuts. And maybe this won't be the week it runs out, but the Cowboys do have a harder schedule coming up, and maybe we'll see some give on those rushing touchdowns. Because this is a split where you looked at I've always compared it even preseason to the Packers, right? Pollard should be Aaron Jones, Zeke should be AJ Dillon, but they're just smashing right now. Absolutely. They have 732 yards the past month combined, 11 touchdowns. Pollard has 10 touchdowns in his past 6 games, and Zeke has 8 touchdowns in his past 6 games. That's wild to have 2 running backs with that kind of touchdown production. So I like the idea of being ahead here and playing the passing side of it. Maybe I'm just a donkey and we'll see more touchdowns from the running backs.
Yeah, they're essentially like Jamal Williams, right? As combined forces for Dallas, getting all those touchdowns on the ground. John, your favorite play on Dallas this week is who?
Dalton Schultz.
Oh,
are you ready for that? Yeah. Well, if we're playing Dak stacks, it's obviously CeeDee Lamb. We want to get a part of this, but I think the double stacks lead us because of this running back regression, because of looking for a second partner to bring along with Dak. Jags are allowing the most yards per attempt, yards per snap, 3rd in yards per game as well, to opposing tight ends. Schultz also leads the team with 7 end zone targets since Dak returned, or over the last month since their Cowboys bye. The next closest on the team being Gallup with 2. So I think there's a lot more touchdown upside here with Schultz as well. So Dak, CeeDee Lamb, Schultz, that's kind of where it starts for me.
Rich, how would you build a tournament lineup with this game?
I think Dak, Lamb, Schultz, and then Christian Kirk. We're going back to Christian Kirkwell. I think he has the matchup advantage. So if you look at it now from a season stance, like Zay Jones and Christian Kirk basically have identical usage this year. Kirk's been targeted on 22.2% of his routes. Zay Jones 22.6. Kirk has 27.9% of team air yards and an 8.6 depth of target. Zay Jones 24.5% of the air yards and a depth of target of 8.2 yards. But where Cowboys have really been beat up is in the slot, and maybe it doesn't matter at all in this matchup just because of the injuries that they've had. But I do think there's a reasonable reason to go back to Christian Kirk. I mean, they've allowed a 9.2% touchdown rate to opposing slot receivers. That is a league high. So I like Kirk. He's shown more of a ceiling, although Zay Jones had, 2 weeks ago, had a really high ceiling. But I feel like Zay Jones just like, because people always bring up the expected points angles, but like all that does to highlight to me is it just shows that Christian Kirk's a better player than Zay Jones.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
are people going to chase Ingram this week? I mean, it doesn't seem like obviously that's an outlier. What happened last week? 15 targets is insanity. Was that just something Tennessee defensively does?
Tennessee, they have all these guys injured, man. The same thing. So they had a great game plan to attack them where their injuries were.
Well, I mean, that's a good segue, I think, going into game 3, because game 3 is the aforementioned the Tennessee Titans at the Chargers. 47.5 is the total. Chargers 3-point favorites here. Well, I'll talk to you, Rich. Are we all of a sudden going to, if it's not Everett, is it Mike Williams or is it Keenan Allen? Are we passing the ball here for the Chargers?
Oh, I mean, we're on. This was made for the Chargers. The Chargers can't run the football, and the Titans only stop the run. So, yeah. I mean, Herbert leads the NFL with 47.4 dropbacks per game, and the Titans face a league high 40.2 pass attempts per game. This game was made for the Chargers to keep doing what the hell they're doing, and for the Titans to keep getting beat the way that they've been getting beat. Same thing, Austin Eckler, like a high Austin Eckler receiving game. It's probably in the books here. I like Big Mike this week just because, I mean, you keep probably talking to me about any Charger, and I like him. But I do like Big Mike this week. He came back. He did run a route on 73% of dropbacks. I would wager that goes up this week. He plays outside. The Titans have been smoked by all perimeter wide receivers. They've allowed a league high 8% touchdown rate to opposing boundary wide receivers on downfield targets. And Big Mike leads the team with a 17% target rate downfield. They've allowed a league high 27 receptions to wide receivers and 10 touchdowns. So I like Big Mike, but pick a Charger, any Charger.
John, power rank the Chargers.
It is Big Mike for me as well. Thinking we're going to get more usage in that one. I do like sneaking in Austin Eckler as a stacking partner. Titans are still allowing the third most catches per game to opposing running backs. And yes, like Eckler won't get there, at least in terms of rushing production on the ground, but that doesn't matter anyways. Like that dude's been over 50 rushing yards in just one of his last 8 games. Like he's not going to get there anyways of that. We're counting on touchdowns and his receptions. So I don't mind Herbert, Eckler, and Mike Williams. But obviously more people will probably get to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Gerald Everett sneaking him in, also a pretty good option, thinking no one's going to play him.
Treylon Burks is still in the concussion protocol. Last I saw on a Wednesday night. And he already missed his week, right? He missed last week. So maybe he'll come back. We'll see. Stay tuned.
His was pretty scary, his hit. Because that was one where they zoomed in. Like the Russ one, they zoomed in last week, and it's just like, oh, this dude's kind of out of it. You could tell Russ was way out of it. And Burks' hit was kind of scary like that too a couple weeks ago. So maybe he misses more than one. We saw Mixon just miss 2 weeks. So keep an eye on it.
So if he doesn't go, there's a bunch of cheap receivers on Tennessee. I don't know if anybody – I guess are we going back to Chig? Chig is still only 3-1. He got the people a touchdown last week. I don't think the usage was incredible. You can tell me, Rich. As far as Tennessee, but the pass catchers, the collection of names is a who's a who of players you don't really want to roster, but they're cheap and they're run backs. So what do you got for me as far as the Titan receivers? We'll talk Henry in a second.
Yeah, Hooper still ran more pass routes than Okonkwo, but they're finding way. Like when Okonkwo's in the game, he's in the game for a purpose. Like he's one of the first read guys. He had a nice 2-point conversion catch too. They're running plays for him when he's in the game, but he was 21st among all tight ends in route rate last week. So you do have to run hot on the opportunities you do get for him. But he is an exciting player, and he's young and cheap, and we like those guys. So listen, he's the exact kind of tight end that we love to chase for all the best and worst reasons. I'm not playing any of these receivers, though. I'll tell you that much.
Maybe the opposite of exciting and young is Robert Woods, right? That's the opposite?
Yeah, man. Westbrook-Ikhine got the tud last week, but I can't do it. It's gonna be Derrick Henry run back, right? And you just hope that they can hang in the game script. Yeah. It is scary though, for as good as the matchup is for Derrick Henry, because listen, the Chargers are allowing a league high 5.5 yards per carry to running backs, 11 touchdowns to running backs. They're 30th in yards allowed prior to contact running backs. They're 32nd in yards allowed after contact to running backs. But we did see again last week. I mean, Henry got scripted out of the game. Luckily he did all that damage in the first half. He had just 3 carries in the second half of that game. So that's what you're still worried about, because this Titans defense is so decimated. And maybe just the Chargers don't get there, right? Because they've been kind of that team. Like, it's not like the Chargers are really lighting it up on anybody. But you do need the Titans to actually hang around.
Even Henry in that game actually went for 11.96-1 in the first quarter, and then he totaled 6 for 25 over the next 45 minutes, because like he's averaging 22 fantasy points in wins, 12 fantasy points in losses now. Like, if the Chargers run away with this, Derrick Henry's just done.
And his backup got hurt, I believe. Is he hurt going forward? It's going to be Hassan Haskins.
Julius Chestnut has been active over Hassan Haskins the past few games. So I think right now Chestnut is the backup.
Okay. It was so weird. And I got confused. I forgot who was playing who last week. I care about this week and this week only. It was Jacksonville versus Tennessee last week. Jacksonville beat them up. All right. That took me a second. I don't know why I had them against Detroit a few minutes ago, but that was a mistake. My bad. John, jump in here. Feel free to give, if you want to pitch anybody as far as the Tennessee pass catchers. If we somehow get Burks, I assume we're interested in Burks, but it seems unlikely on a Wednesday night. Who knows? We'll see. Things can change. But the rest of these names, and I still haven't seen a proof of life on Racey McMath. Who was Racey McMath? I don't know if that's a person.
I wouldn't worry about it too much. We need Burks. I would definitely play Burks if we get him. Ryan Tannehill may still be too thin, but honestly, my quarterback pool on Sunday is pretty thin already. It's pretty small given the overall landscape of the slate and the matchups even good quarterbacks are in. Because we saw the same shit again from Jalen Hurts last week. Everyone thought he was going to win the slate in the first half, but the Eagles are too good, and they're kind of in another too good matchup where he has to get all of his production done in the first half against the Bears. But the Titans still remain top 10 in pass play rate in neutral game script. Since Tannehill returned from injury, he's reached 34 pass attempts in 3 of his last 5 games. But without Burks these past 2 weeks, they've actually run 12 personnel, 2 tight ends to get Okonkwo on the field more on 49% of their snaps. That's been their primary package. And you just can't push anyone from 12 personnel whenever you have Austin Hooper on every single down between Robert Woods and Westbrook-Ikhine. So, we just need Burks here to get them back to more 11 personnel.
Rich, we got anything else here as far as Tennessee and the Chargers?
I think that just about covers all the guys.
All right, that is the 3 main games. We're going to talk about fair players, position by position in a second. We'll tell you about Thrive in a second as well. But, John, you mentioned it before the show. You've done your research. And, Rich, if you have anything to add, by all means, go for it. But
he's done his research. He's written all the games up. He knows what he's doing.
I'm sure. Yeah, whatever you guys – I have not. I have not looked at the
Don't pin these shitty 3 games on me. Like, Rich and I are going to do this together.
You're going to do this together. You dug in. You want to share for the people. Indianapolis.
Oh, I love it. It's because I love short slates. Like, short slates give you it's the best time to go all in on like the absolute leverage. Like, it's, you see the angle and you play that angle and you die on that angle. Doesn't even matter if you're right, but you know what you're doing. And so when I look and I say, what can go wrong when I play Matt Ryan over 40% Josh Allen? Like, that's the angle. That's what I'm looking at in this first game, since it's the highest total on the board, and rightfully so. And so we know, like, the Vikings are going to get there. Like, the Vikings are going to get there. Kirk Cousins, I'm sure, is popping. And the RotoGrinders optimals, especially at only 6K, I think he is on DraftKings. Also, like, Gus Bradley leans on cover 3. Cousins against zone coverage this year, 75% completion rate, 9.1 yards per attempt. Like, the Viking receivers are definitely going to get there, especially because we also know Adam Thielen splits this year over a half a yard more per route run against zone coverage compared to man coverage. So, like, the Vikings receivers are definitely going to get there. But at the same time, yes, Matt Ryan struggled before the bye, but you can also say he played the Steelers, Cowboys, and Eagles. Like, he played 3 of the toughest pass rushes in the entire league, whereas the rare occasions Ryan did play elite matchups this year, Titans, Jaguars, and Texans, he passed for over 350 yards in all 3 of those games. And the Vikings defense, like, it's something we talk about every single week, have allowed a 300-yard passer in 6 of their last 8 games. Also 5 consecutive top 9 finishes to quarterbacks. So I think it is a really sneaky game for Matt Ryan here to potentially take down the slate, especially if we're talking about weather and this low scoring total for the Bills Dolphins that maybe everyone's attracted to, since it's already sunk from 48 points opening to 42 and only going down further as we get closer to Saturday.
3 games, 1 in the Dome, the other 2, 1 in Cleveland, 1 in Buffalo. We're in December, so potential weather lurking. I know there's been some reports, and who knows? Wednesday night, we'll see when it comes to Saturday. But like you said, Miami, Buffalo, 43.5. It certainly suggests that that number suggests that weather is going to be potentially kind of goofy. I'm running optimals on the fly, by the way. I wanted to see if we can get anything. I'm just curious who is the the cheap guy that's going to be jammed in everywhere. I'm trying to see. Njoku.
Alec Pierce.
Yeah, Alec Pierce will probably be the dude.
And Matt Ryan is literally throwing downfield at the league's lowest rate. But at least we could say Alec Pierce is getting 57% of those deep targets. So there's throw that coin right now.
That's what's fun about this matchup is that where the Vikings are their worst is where the Colts have not done anything.
Yep.
So it's really fun kind of a matchup here. The good thing is the Vikings are pretty bad at underneath throws too, so that it doesn't really hurt the Ryan play that much. I mean, on throws within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, and the Colts are number 1 in the NFL in those throws. They're last in the NFL in throws 10 yards or further. Minnesota 23rd in EPA per dropback allowed. League high 72% completion rate, 11 touchdowns is 18th. So the opportunity is there. What can go wrong with Matt Ryan all the way?
What can go wrong?
I'm just seeing the cap looks really soft because with Jonathan Taylor at 7.2 on DK, like, what is that? That seems really cheap.
It depends what you do with the Dolphins receivers. Once you start trying to play a one-off with Tyreek Hill, and then you also fit Justin Jefferson, it gets tough. It's honestly I think flex tight end may be optimal in this slate, given that Njoku could just be far and away the best option here.
Very first lineup in this optimal has Njoku and Mark Andrews. It's funny you said that. So a couple of them have, and we don't even know who's quarterbacking Baltimore at this point on a Wednesday night. I don't think, right? Nothing's been settled just yet.
No, Tyler Huntley, I think, was full practice today, but he's still in the concussion protocol. So it's a short week too. So they may just take it down to the wire.
Yeah. But yeah.
Plus we have the Browns who have they've scored 16 offensive points on 23 possessions with Sean Watson. It's been miserable. But at the same time, Ravens defense quietly this past month, they're giving up the highest completion rate on throws 20 yards downfield. That's where Watson, it's opposite. It's bizarro Matt Ryan. Watson is trying to go downfield. He's just been awful at it. He's only completed 1 pass 20 yards downfield so far. So I don't know. That's where the sneakiness comes from, is that middling Browns Ravens game, especially on a short week with J.K. Dobbins, 43% of snaps, returns from injury. But now it's a second game back already on a Saturday kickoff. So who knows?
Was it 2 years ago, John, that when we were talking about Donovan Peoples-Jones every single week? And we were way ahead of the market, right? He's a thing now.
It feels like 2 years ago, but it was actually just last year.
Yeah. Was it just last year?
Yeah.
But still, I think we were ahead. I think this is a victory lap for last year's podcast. We would mention him all the time, sometimes as a joke, but he's not a joke at this point. He looks pretty legit out there for sure. Rich, your thoughts as far as this 3-gamer? Who's the player that's just going to break the slate? Who's the slate breaker?
That's it. I mean, Alec Pierce is definitely the punk guy. I mean, Michael Pittman, if you want to pay for him instead of the other guys, because obviously you'll get Tyreek, and Justin Jefferson's always going to be popular. So maybe it's a guy like Michael Pittman, just comes in under owned because people want to play Pierce because of the matchup and his salary. So maybe a guy like Michael Pittman. Don't know anything to do in that Browns game. I like Njoku, but the rest of it is kind of a quagmire, and the game could just be ugly like the first time they played. Nick Chubb's been really struggling. It's tough, man. Everything about the Browns offense has really been a struggle. Like Daigle said, the past 2 weeks since Watson came back, just high leverage spots. He's been bad in the red zone. He's been bad on third down. He's been bad downfield. Real hard. And then the Ravens are the Ravens. This is only the Giants have fewer explosive pass plays than the Ravens this year. It's miserable. Everyone saw this coming with the Ravens too, by the way. Just an absolute heartbreak. And then Bills-Dolphins is supposed to have crummy weather. The Dolphins have gone to the West Coast back-to-back weeks. Now have a short week. They go to Buffalo.
Yeah.
Really kind of just a gauntlet that they've been put through here. They're playing bad. We'll see if the blueprint is out on them and taking away the middle of the field. We'll see what the calibration is. Tyreek's a little bit banged up. Waddle, I think, has been banged up for like 4 or 5 weeks in a row now.
He's got a leg.
They can't run the football at all, which doesn't help them. Real tough spot here.
I think the Dolphins, somebody said they're finally getting calibrated. They're finally getting adjusted back to East Coast time, but I'm pretty sure, I know you said back-to-back, but didn't they stay out there?
I don't know if they stayed or not. I don't know. I didn't. Yeah.
It's Wednesday, and Tua said in his presser today, he's like, they're still trying to catch up to Eastern time. And like, it's Wednesday already. They got to kick off in like a few days.
Yeah.
And the Bills also on their own, right? Like haven't been the hottest thing ever. I mean, it's a bummer we're in week 15 and the only Bill you can play with any confidence is Stephon Diggs. Like the rest of these guys, I mean, that's why they're bringing John Brown back, Cole Beasley back. Nobody's giving them any production outside of Diggs at all. And it's another one of these weird splits for Gabe Davis week, right? Like you're getting another man coverage heavy team. And Gabe just isn't getting open against man coverage at all.
Is Beasley and Brown, are they playing? Are they going to be on the field?
Brown was active on last Thursday. I can't remember if he was active on Sunday.
Yeah,
right? He's not really playing.
Brown's played, or he's been active for both games so far, but he doesn't really play.
Mm-hmm.
They said Beasley may actually be ready to go by Saturday night. But again, like, I guess it just depends then what the Dolphins do, because they blitzed Josh Allen's face off. Like they led the league in blitzes in week 3. This first time these two teams played, and he was.
But they stopped. They did the first half, and then they completely changed the game in the second.
Because
half.
He threw for 200 yards in the first half.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, well, we can't do this.
Remember, he had 71 dropbacks in that game.
Yeah,
but they stopped. They didn't blitz him really at all in the second half. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Beasley's just going to take his 5 yard, in the slot. Like, how long you have to be on the team to learn that, okay, I can do that. Yeah, that's not very difficult. I assume that's what he would be asked to do. And why stop at Beasley and John Brown? Where's Stevie Johnson? Where's he at? Is he available?
Yeah, give him
a call.
J.
Emmanuel
Sanders, bring him back.
Given the lack of confidence I have.
Lee Evans, bring him back.
In Browns Ravens. I would take to get up to these receivers, though, like to maybe play Jefferson and Thielen without Cousins and with Ryan instead. I would play Raheem Mostert. I think that's really one play I'll probably try to be overweight on, even though Dolphins, yes, aren't running the ball. But if we don't get Jeff Wilson, at least we think Mostert will be an every down back, and we may be able to get like 5 to 7 catches from him. And that may be enough as your RB2 in this slate.
One more question as far as this three-gamer. We'll move on. The Saturday slates. Demarcus Robinson's 4K, Alec Pierce is 3.9. Do we have a hard stance as far as these two? I know you two have a lean. I'm just thinking of like the cheap receiver. You guys both mentioned Pierce. And surprisingly, our optimizer on a Wednesday night seems to favor Robinson. We don't know who's quarterbacking Baltimore, but just throwing it out there.
And Robinson did have a 25% target share in his first game whenever Huntley came off the bench. The target shares got a little messed up last week since Huntley was injured and Brown came off the bench. But yeah, I could see definitely a cheap Ravens player sneaking in here, even if it's like Gus Edwards, if J.K. Dobbins gets scaled back, because the Browns' rush defense is still bad. It's just like who's going to be the one to suck it up and try to pick the right person from that Ravens offense. Like they have a 17.5 point team total. The Browns are at 18.5, I believe. It's just a ugly game. 37 points overall.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about our sponsor, Thrive. Join in the fantasy prop action this NFL season with Thrive Fantasy. It's an easy-to-play, no salary cap style contest, revolves around over-under style player props. Each prop has a fantasy score associated with that prop. The riskier the prop happens to be, the higher the fantasy score. Rack up the most points for your share of the prize pool. Use promo code GRINDERS when you sign up for a deposit bonus up to $250, as well as getting free tickets. If you deposit between $100 and $499, you get 2 free $20 contest tickets. You deposit $500 or more, you get 6 free $20 contest tickets. Now that's in addition to the $250 deposit bonus. Terms and conditions do apply. Check out RotoGrinders review page for Thrive Fantasy in the description for more information. Again, that promo code is Grinders, GRINDERS. Producer Steve's going to throw up the props on the screen. Now they have all sorts of sports and all sorts of slates. We're focusing on the main slate. You got to pick 10 out of these 20 that are up there. Don't get cute and bet Kyle Murray under because it's just going to be voided. I guess this was already set. I'm not really sure why it's on there. Maybe you bet Hopkins under. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a benefit with Murray not in the game. That's kind of a bummer. He tore his ACL. But, John, I'll throw it to you. What are you seeing? What are you looking at? Who's popping for you as far as your favorite props? And, again, as always, be as ambitious as you're feeling.
We go down a little bit. I believe Jared Goff. I think we get more points. No, we don't get. We get fewer points for an interception. Okay, never mind. Go down a little bit more. I saw 2 or 3 I like. Let's start with. Nope. I still look for more points. Derrick Henry. I'll take 20 more points to go over, hoping they stick around. And again, Derrick Henry still, has only eclipsed 21 touches in one of his last 6 games, but nonetheless, if they stick around, it's still a great matchup. So we'll take that over 92.5 rushing yards. I'm trying to spike more here.
Just listening to you guys talk, I'm trying to spoon feed it to you. Feel free to pick your own. But you guys both like Mike Williams, 4.5 catches, over 4.5. You get 115 points.
Sure. He could get to 200 yards on 4 catches, but I'll go, the point bonus.
It's not a yards thing. It's use 5 catches, basically 115 points.
But 30 more points because of over 4.5. Yeah, I'll take that odds. Go back up as well. There was one more I like here. Maybe there wasn't one. I'll take a chance on Alvin Kamara getting the 20-point bonus over 52.5 rushing yards. We've seen in 4 games without Mark Ingram, they do use Kamara as a bell cow. It shouldn't take Ingram being out to use Kamara for every touch, but he's handled 85% of backfield touches in 4 games without Ingram this year, only 71%, and the 7 starts with Mark Ingram. So we think Kamara is going to get pretty much every touch in an amazing matchup against the Falcons.
What do you have, Rich?
Kamara was the one that I was looking at, especially because you look at the Saints too. I mean, their run out's been brutal. The last 5 games they played Ravens, Steelers, Rams, 49ers, Buccaneers. There's a reason why, they haven't run the football at all. And then his end of the season schedule, well, not the closer, but he's got Falcons, Browns the next 2. Kamara he's on my list for the guys for running back plays for sure. He's going to be a guy that I'll be honed in on. I think the field will be too. So we'll have to see where he's going to be checked in at, but he's definitely a guy I'm looking at. They gave you some tough ones though. Like these are pretty wonky, cause you got like Terry McLaurin, but like it's a difference of 40. Like they're all really wide this week. None of it. They're not giving us really a lot of fun ones, man.
I'm trying to see. There's another one I kind of, you guys sold me on it. And, he's been playing great. And you said the secondary's kind of beat up a little bit. What about Trevor Lawrence? Over 1.5, just two touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns,
sure.
And you're getting positive 115 points in that. I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, we're getting positive. That's all I look for. Is the positive differential.
Throw them in.
All right, that's enough. We don't want to give them all away. Obviously, you got to fill out 10 of those 20, and I believe that's a $100,000 contest. Wait, no, that's a $10,000. $10,000 the first, $50,000 as far as total prize pool. They have Saturday only a contest as well. I didn't pull that one, but I wanted to stay consistent and pick from the main slate. All right, let's talk about some quarterbacks we happen to like that we've yet to talk about. John, you said your list was thin. What is on your list?
We already talked about it. That's how thin it is. I mean, genuinely, like when I started writing down and like looking into plays, I was like, I think I only like Mike White, Dak Prescott, and Justin Herbert. Like that's pretty much it for me. Yes, Jalen Hurts is a good play, but at the same time, again, I think the same thing happens as last week where the Bears, especially with Justin Fields, not even practicing on a Wednesday, fairly limited here. So I'll kick it off to Rich to see what else he has.
No, that's really it. Just Jalen Hurts. But if Goddard's going to play, then it makes the stacking, kind of a mess again. So, it was really nice these last few weeks to just know the ball's going to two guys. That's what made it so fun. But yeah, I'm kind of in agreement that the Bears, I just don't think the Bears punched back enough in that game. But we did hone in on most of the field. Herbert, Dak, Lawrence, Mike White.
All right, then let's move on to running back. I'll let you start, Rich. Sell me on Kamara because like the box score's not been great.
I just laid it out for you. I mean, look at their schedule. Look at the schedule they had. And now he's a home favorite with his backup just got hurt and is out for the year. Atlanta's allowing, 15 rushing points per game to run it up. They're allowing 9.3 receiving points per game. That's 18th in the league. 137 total yards per game to opposing backfields. It's an easy spot play. And then the production is easily explainable to this point by the state of the offensive line and then their opponents. It's been opponent driven. Prior to that, Kamara was roasting. He roasted the Raiders, right before that. Who'd they play the week before the Raiders? The Cardinals. Was good in that game. Was good against Seattle, right? Like we've been targeting every week with running backs. Like he hit in the spots he should have hit in and has struggled. Maybe he's had more of a lower floor than people expected given Alvin Kamara. But I look at what they've played and I say, yeah, these teams have shut down basically everybody that they've played. So yeah, he'll be a guy. Hopefully, I hope more people are like on your side, Dean.
No, he's projecting really well. It's just kind of like he's popping and he's hitting all the optimals right now, which is
so he's going to be popular. Yeah. Listen. Daigle laid out though too. If we're saying all those things about Jalen Hurts, like you go right back to Miles Sanders, man. It's another great spot for Miles Sanders. I mean, they have another massive team total. Chicago's getting absolutely flooded on the ground because they're bad against everybody. 27th in yards per carry allowed to running backs, 30th in rushing points per game. And if Miles Sanders is touchdown dependent, which he is, the Bears also have allowed 14 rushing touchdowns, which is tied for the second most in the league. So we can go back to him. Probably the ugliest play is James Conner, but he's getting so many opportunities. And for his price, I mean, his past 4 games, he has 89 of 100 backfield touches. 3 RB1 scoring weeks. He faced the 49ers in that stretch and still scored. The Patriots have been awesome against running backs. He had 114 yards and a touchdown against them. He's just getting the ball so much.
If I told you in the preseason that Arizona was playing Denver and the total was 36.5, like what sort of like blizzard is going on in Denver with that line? That is insane. Obviously we're expecting Colt McCoy to take
Ripien and Colt McCoy.
Yeah, I mean, man.
You Scott Hansen special, baby.
But shout out Scott Hansen. Shout out the NFL. 10 games, 6-4. I like that distribution. 6 early, 4 late. Can we not coordinate this every single week? Can we not make that happen? All right.
Especially when the Bucks are one of the games at 4 always.
Oh, geez. They are once again.
They're unwatchable. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are unwatchable.
Literally are.
Yeah, so in the NBA, there's a thing like League Pass. I like the League Pass power rankings as far as most exciting teams to watch as like a neutral, independent fan. But it is if we did that for like League Pass for NFL, you think Tampa is dead last? They're 32. Who's more unwatchable than Tampa Bay?
Well, Denver.
Yeah.
The Rams.
Dude, the Bucks do the same thing over and over again. It is literally Brady getting rid of the ball within 2 seconds. They try to run on early downs, even though it's been 14 weeks and they can't run the ball at all, and they know it too. Dude, it is. They haven't reached 23 points in 9 consecutive games. Like, they're a joke. It's so bad.
And if you watch the Bucks, every single player on their team, their head coach, everybody, they look like they're having a miserable time. Like they just look like it is the absolute worst. Like oh my god, Todd. Every time they show Todd Bowles, he just looks like this is the worst experience of his life.
What is the inverse of that, by the way? Is it ridiculous to say like the Lions? Let's throw them in the dome, independent, neutral. The Lions are like a top 5 fun team to watch, aren't they? I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. Lions, Vikings.
Vikings are pretty fun. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else.
Cowboys are explosive. They're fun to watch.
Philly.
The Bills.
Chargers are aggravating, but they're still somewhat fun.
Mahomes, KC.
Oh, yeah.
KC, yeah, sure.
Kelsey.
Yeah. There are 7 fun teams. That's it.
Pacheco also will be popular this week, too.
Yeah.
People aren't going to chase the McKinnon game.
Dean, you played him in the thing. Did you play a lot of him last week?
I made 10 lineups on FanDuel and he was in 3 of them. So because he was just the cheap guy that kind of made stuff work. But unfortunately, the rest of my players weren't spectacular. So.
What a brazen play though on FanDuel too. Like it wasn't a DraftKings. Like you played him on FanDuel and he was incredible. What a play.
Yeah, he was 5. I think he was 5'4". And I didn't love it. I didn't feel. I wasn't like I had some kind of amazing read. You know what? I think Mahomes is gonna like scramble and throw the ball like it's the most absurd, innovative pass you've ever seen in the history of the NFL.
And so the Millie Maker winner, like McKinnon was in winning tournament lineups as well. The Millie Maker winner had the double stack Lawrence with Henry and McKinnon in the flex, and he lapped second place by 40 points. It was a no contest from the very beginning.
Didn't need McKinnon. Like
he did not need McKinnon.
I've never seen a win that big in the Millie Maker. Shout out,
especially in such a large field. Yeah, he just it was such a wide margin.
It was essentially the nuts. Like that dude, I like to pretend like I do. That dude has the almanac. That dude knows Biff. I want a full investigation. He owns the DeLorean. I don't know what's going on. Ricky Moore, you're on it for sure.
It was sound too. Like he still played a couple shock rod receivers. Like he went in on Garrett Wilson. He just had like the unique stack with the Jerick McKinnon, who was 4,600, the same price as James Cook. So he's like, oh, well, I still need that cheap running back to unlock these wide receivers like Justin Jefferson. So yeah, sure, play the cheap guy.
Shout out the chat. My first time noticing the chat. Those that are watching us live, shout out Josh in the chat. Dolphins and Bengals. Yeah, there's more than 7 fun teams. The Dolphins are fun, but they're clicking. I don't know if you mentioned the Dolphins.
Dolphins are fun. You're right. Absolutely. I apologize. I should have noted the Dolphins whenever they're good.
Yeah, I ignored them too. And the Bengals, they can be. Sure.
Yeah, the Bengals are hit and miss. They have fun players, right? They have players we want to watch.
Yeah.
But then when Zach Taylor gets on his bullshit, we're like, come on, man.
I'm not watching Bengals Bucks. I'm not going to watch a second of it.
I mean, it's going to sprinkle in on Red Zone, but like we didn't mention it. But
no,
P. Ryan,
you won't be in the Red Zone
for fantasy. Like we didn't touch on it, but like obviously, P. Ryan took a big chunk out of Mixon last week, and there's no discount as far as price. I suppose you can do some things in tournaments if you want, Rich. But obviously Mixon has to take some hit going forward as far as his rates, right? Projection wise.
Yeah, he only played 58% of snaps, 69% of the backfield touches. Those are his lowest rates in a game without an injury. Ran a pass around 43% of the dropbacks. That was the second lowest rate in a game without injury. P. Ryan also didn't get enough touches on his own to have any value on his own. So terrible situation. And that Bucks running back situation is the absolute worst because no guy even has like an archetype. Like they're just swapping them in and out and just doing the same stuff with both guys. Literally the worst type of split for fantasy football.
John, open up receivers.
If you want to play Pacheco or any Chiefs player for that matter, it is a good spot for Juju back in the slot against the Texans too. I think you can skinny stack it with Chris Moore, as Rich talked about. We'll see what happens with Nico Collins. Didn't practice Wednesday, I don't believe. Didn't practice ahead of week 14. Think we might lose him. I don't expect Brandon Cooks to pretty much return at all this year. And Moore, I mean, he literally was Devontae Adams in that game. 40% of the team's targets, 58% of their receiving yards, and 56% of their air yards. He also recorded their only red zone target in that game. And the same reason we played, or Rich mentioned Jerry Jeudy against the Chiefs, who are poor against wide receivers. You can say that for Chris Moore. And then I know we're going to get to Elijah Moore, as we talked about, as the cheapest option on DraftKings. I think Rashid Shaheed may be a good play this week. As ugly as that may be, we've seen now his snaps, route participation increase in 3 consecutive games ahead of their bye. Ran only 2 fewer routes than Chris Olave as the team's second wide receiver this past week. And the dude is nothing but like a big play specialist, averaging over 18 yards per catch. So if we're going to say he's going to have a higher target share, he's going to be involved against this Falcons defense that the passing metrics don't do it justice since they haven't played like a good quarterback in over a month. They faced Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields through the air, Taylor Heineke, and PJ Walker. But before then, Josh Palmer with Justin Herbert went over 100 yards. DJ Moore went over 150 and a touchdown. Both Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd went over 130 with the touchdown. Jimmy Garoppolo also spiked them for nearly 295 yards. So I think we're going to get some production through the air here. And so if everyone's going to look for Elijah Moore, I think it is a sneaky spot for Shaheed and only 3,200 on DraftKings.
That was not a name I did not anticipate, but that's interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I like it. By the way, Moore is currently projected to have the most ownership, or not most ownership, but hitting the most, optimals right now on a Wednesday night. No surprise. He's fairly popular as of right now. We'll see how that goes going forward.
That catnip, man. Love it. Can't know 3,600. Yeah, we're gonna lock it in.
What
does that get me? What good player does that get me?
Just a general thought, Rich, as far as Ritter taking over the role there for Atlanta. Does it help? Does it hurt pieces like London? Can it possibly be worse as far as the passing for Atlanta?
We've said that before many times in our lives, and it can always be worse, even when it is worse, even when it's bad.
So you tell me.
I think it'll probably be a conservative game plan from Arthur Smith, like always. I mean, I don't think it makes a major change. They're 13% below pass rate expectation, 32nd in early down passing rate. He's Greg Roman, man. He's really good play designer, not the greatest of always play callers. I think they're going to take it easy. And Ritter wasn't a guy that was like a drop back 35-plus time quarterback at Cincinnati either. So I do think that they'll use his legs a little bit, but I think it'll be an overall conservative kind of game plan for them. And that's really it. I mean, I'm not playing any of the Falcons. That's all I know.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted.
I'm not going to play any of the Falcons. I mean, we're just like wondering if we can still flex Drake London in seasonal leagues, like let alone play him in DFS. But
yeah, he's talented, but man, he can't throw the ball to himself, I suppose, or even call plays for even passing plays. But all right. And in a dome this time of year, just in theory, it looks appealing, but yeah, you kind of talked me off it right away.
I mean, he's cheap enough. Good. Play your guys, man.
Yeah, he's 4-7. All right.
You played Jerick McKinnon last week.
Well, that was a salary thing. I didn't love Jerick. I'm not taking that victory up. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not like proud of myself for doing it. And again, I still lost. But like it just sort of fit. That's just what
they had a high team total. They only have 2 running backs they use. Yeah. Like I think it was a sound play given the salary.
Yeah. And McKinnon obviously you prefer generally in theory, receiving wise on DK with the full point, but just the way things worked. But we still lost. We'll talk about your movie in a second. I'm really curious, Rich, what you're going to sign us. But did you give your receivers? I apologize. I got derailed down my head.
Like Daigle's quarterbacks. I mean, a lot of the receivers that I want to play are in the games that we talked about.
Yeah.
Outside of jamming in Jamar Chase. It looks like T. Higgins is going to play, but I still would love to jam Chase in lineups where I can. And then you have to monitor him because he's also in the concussion protocol. But Jacoby Myers at 4-7 on DraftKings just literally has an optimal spot if he can get back on the field this week. Leads the team in target rate with Devontae Parker off the field, who's also now in concussion protocol. Raiders play man coverage at the 6th highest rate. He's got 31% target share in his routes against man coverage, and paired with the Raiders are also one of the worst teams of slot receivers. At 4-7, I would love to sneak in some Jacoby Myers.
You have some tight ends you want to endorse, John, or at least mention the names that they exist and they're playing football this weekend?
Not really. Everyone's going to go back to Greg Dulcich, aren't they?
Yeah, he plays the Cardinals.
Against the Cardinals.
Is that still a thing? Tight ends against the Cardinals? I feel like that's been a thing for 7 years. Is it still real?
It keeps cooking. As long as they're gonna keep drafting off-ball linebackers that they don't want to play in the first round.
Still real, yeah. Damn it. All right, so Dulcich, we're gonna be really. That's what we're doing.
I mean, I want to play Schultz, like Daigle said, if I can fit him in. I want to play Schultz.
Schultz is awesome too because people are going to play Ingram. They will chase it at his salary, whereas Schultz is just a better outright play.
Yeah, 45% of optimals are hitting Dulcich again. Like, come on, man. Enough with this guy. This is like it's like Foster Moreau again.
We have the Brett Ripien factor, so maybe he dots him up.
I love that Brett Ripien's an upgrade. You're selling it as an upgrade.
The Brett Ripien factor.
Over the $250 million quarterback.
Listen, man, Russ isn't peppering that shallow area of the field.
Oh my God, it's so wild. And you might actually be right. Like that's the thing. It's like I don't think you're wrong necessarily.
But he's so cheap. I mean, people won't be able to, he's cheap and he plays the Cardinals. That's literally where it stops. Like, doesn't even matter who the player is, right? If I just tell you there's a tight end that's 3-6 or 5-6 at FanDuel and he's playing the Cardinals, you're probably just like, well, sure.
I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Blind resume, sure.
It's literally Schultz or Okonkwo for me, like who's still 3,100 on DraftKings. Like those are my that's my pool. Those are my 2 players.
Yeah. Plug him in.
Conklin. I mean, if you have money, Kelsey, obviously, but who's got money?
And Conklin's one of those guys is you're literally just selling the matchup. Like he's not doing anything to make you want to play the player. And that always gets you in trouble in fantasy football, especially DFS.
Well, I think we're done as far as our fantasy football analysis. We're going to talk about movies. Is that it? Unless we got anything else there, John?
I think that about wraps it up. 2 days of games. We covered it all.
Rich, you got anything else to mention before we talk a little bit of movies? We're happy if you guys want to stick with us. And it's not going to be long. We do our little 4-man. The winner of the 4-man assigns the 3 losers a movie to watch, and we discuss it briefly, and we keep that going forward. Rich is going to assign us a movie. I'm curious what it is. But unless you guys, if you don't want to be a part of that, if you guys are listening, by all means, appreciate y'all watching. Stay tuned for Week 16 coming in a week. But yeah, Rich, unless anything else as far as this week, let's talk about some movies.
Let's talk about Steve's movie from last week.
Yeah, let's bring on producer Steve. Producer Steve.
Steve was the winner.
He was the big winner last week, and Steve, you had us watch. Now, I think we all have seen Baby Driver, but we saw it a second time, I believe. I don't want to speak for everybody.
I didn't see it. I haven't seen it until I watched it this time.
Oh, then go. We have to yield to you. What was your thought as far as watching Baby Driver the very first time?
So, some good camera angles. The soundtrack's really good. I just don't think it's my flavor. Like Dean, as you mentioned about Sideways. Or no, yeah, maybe Sideways. Yeah. I just don't like. It's fun. I don't know though, but it's not Fast and Furious enough for me to really enjoy it. But it's also like not a comedy enough for me. I don't know. It just felt like I wasn't sure what I was watching. So yeah, it was good. It was okay.
Is That's more Fast and Furious a positive or a negative? It sounds like it's saying it's.
If you're gonna be Fast and Furious, be Fast and Furious, or like do the opposite thing and be like a driver with Ryan. Someone help me out here.
Gosling, I think.
Ryan Gosling, and just go like a creepier, serious angle of that kind of attitude. But like this was like, I don't know. It was like what? It was in Bruges, but with a car. I can't decide like the flavor of the movie. So yeah, it just wasn't for me.
Critics love it. 92% as far as tomato meter. The audience score is at 86%. Yeah,
I've lost my edge.
Was it good that you watched it your one time though and got to watch?
Yes, absolutely. It's genuinely been on my list for the last 2 years, and I've just haven't sat down for some reason to watch it at all. I'm a fan of all of those actors, so yeah, it was enjoyable.
Especially Kevin Spacey, of course. Right?
Yes, Kevin Spacey, of course.
It was weird to see him because I feel like he's been just ostracized, and we haven't. This is like his last role, basically.
I feel like it was, yeah.
Yeah, but Fox.
He was ostracized for a reason. Yes.
Oh yeah, I'm not. Yeah, for sure. I'm not making light of that, but it was just weird seeing Kevin Spacey. It's like, oh yeah, Kevin Spacey used to be, and he's such a great actor. The whole thing's so unfortunate. But yeah, Barenthal is fabulous. Ham is fabulous. Jamie Foxx was good to see, non-starring role, but nice to see him popping up there. What was your thoughts there, second time around, Rich, as far as Baby Driver?
I enjoy it for what it is. I like a lot of Edgar Wright movies, so I mean, he definitely is more of a fun movie. They're all kind of like light to watch, they're easy watches. More there for like enjoyment purposes. Not the deepest of characters in this one for him, but it's fun. I enjoy it. Soundtrack makes up a lot of ground here. And parkour. Well, you got a good parkour. I don't know. Like there was a phase where like everyone did parkour in movies, and you get a parkour segment here.
You do get that.
Edgar Wright known for Shaun of the Dead and Scott Pilgrim, and those are definitely two.
And I think Steve's brought up World's End a few times.
Steve, is that your wheelhouse?
No, it was this.
Oh, This Is the End. My bad. All right. Yeah, Scott Pilgrim. No, I'll always stop on Scott Pilgrim every time.
It's an interesting movie. Like I don't know how would you describe Scott Pilgrim to people? But yeah, there's certainly Edgar Wright has his own edge. I will say the most recent one, Last Night in Soho. I watched it on HBO.
I haven't seen that.
Did not like it. I aggressively did not like it. Did not. It was. I appreciate it was ambitious. It was I don't want to spoil it. You should watch it, I think.
All right.
I'm not recommending it, but I didn't like it. But I thought it would be good because Edgar Wright, like at least if nothing else, he gives like interesting movies, like you said. But Rich, unless we have anything else, did you watch it again with us, Steve? Or I guess you didn't have to necessarily. Have you seen it before?
No, I didn't get to watch it again. But, where did you guys watch it, by the way? What was it?
Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay.
I think that's where it was. No, it was like $3. I think it was $3.
I paid $3-4 for it.
Yeah, I watched it on Vudu.
Rich, now I have no idea what to expect. I mean, we haven't. This is your first time signing a movie.
Yeah.
Wheelhouse.
A lot of pressure. I feel like a lot of pressure, right? Like,
take me through the thought process.
Picking the movie is the hardest part, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to do a theme, and I wanted to do a theme that I thought Daigle and you guys might appreciate, because I'm going to do multiverse theme, and because it's somewhere in some genuine existence of this NFL season, it's good, and the games are good, and like these games on Sunday will be good. But I don't believe that that's going to happen in our universe. So I'm going to do multiverse theme. I'll throw some out there to give you a choice. My favorite movie of this year was Everything Everywhere All at Once. I don't know if you guys saw that one.
No, and I don't know what it's about, but I've heard it's best if I don't know what it's about and just go watch it. So
it was my favorite movie.
That's
this
what I
year.
heard too.
I saw it a week ago, and I'll give you
Did
my.
You like it?
I had the same thoughts as I had on the Edgar Wright movie.
Oh, really?
I
look at that lineup. That lineup is fire, though. By the way, it's a hot lineup.
Yeah. Goff, Miles Sanders, Joe Mixon, Chark, Kirk.
Mixon sucked.
The Detroit double stack was pretty nice. Chig, you talked about, and Judy in the flex. Tampa Bay -2 points. They were worthless. They were
Yeah. That was an error on my part. Defense held me back this week from the big bucks.
I wanted to like Everything Everywhere.
Well, everyone was playing the Steelers, so I thought I'd just play the Bucks against Purdy, thinking at the same price I'd be all right. No.
Yeah.
Negative.
I wanted to like it, Rich. Everything Everywhere All at Once. I didn't hate it. I'm trying to think what movie it's being like. It's kind of Matrixy, right? I don't know how do you describe it. Would you say Matrixy fair?
I wouldn't call it more Matrixy. I'm trying to think of like.
You don't think it's Matrix adjacent? Similar? There's some point. I don't want to give anything away necessarily, but like.
I don't want to talk about like what the theme of the movie was. So so I don't want to give it away. But I will throw some other ones in there. So look, we haven't mixed in animation yet, but Coraline, really underrated movie. Another animated. How about just Into the Spider-Verse? Literally the dopest superhero movie ever made. We can go way back and do Time Cop.
Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Yes, Van Damme Time Cop.
How do you jump?
Isn't that a South Park episode as well?
Well, I was thinking, do you guys have multiverse movies to throw in here? I have Donnie Darko on the list. Looper. What else you guys got?
I thought about suggesting Donnie Darko too, actually, but I didn't.
Can you explain the plot to Donnie Darko in 30 seconds or less?
No.
I've seen it several times, and I think I
Hot Tub Time Machine.
Still funny. Holds up. I kind of like the idea of watching Time Cop again, to be honest.
Dean, is there any way that you've seen Into the Spider-Verse?
It's funny. I've seen the first half of it, and I liked it. I will be happy.
Okay.
But I don't want to dictate. It's your deal. But I'd be happy to watch that. And I know the new one's coming out. I saw the trailer just dropped, I believe, yesterday. People are excited about it.
There's another Spider-Man. I guess there's endless Spider-Man multiverses, but there's another multiverse Spider-Man.
Well, this one will be there'll be a sequel to it. But I mean, if you guys haven't, it sounds like you guys wanted to see Everything Everywhere All at Once and haven't just gotten to it yet.
I literally just watched it.
Well, I'm talking about Steve and Daigle.
I haven't seen anything on the list except Donnie Darko, so I'm good with whatever.
If Dean hasn't seen all of the Spider-Man movie, I haven't seen the Spider-Man movie. So that sounds like it'd be more fun during a bad week of football games than anything.
I like the thing though. Like you're thinking of the multiverse and universes, and I love a time cop even entered the conversation. Just like as others mentioned, like others receiving.
Well, I'm 40. I grew up in the era. I'm an 80s baby, and I grew up like those were the movie stars when I was a kid. Like those were the movies that were box office draws. Those action, they weren't good actors at all, but they were movie stars. Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Van Damme, like those movies. Every one of those movies, man, we were going to see like all those movies. So that's why I brought it up. Van Damme used to have some gems. I'll still jam with Hard Target, like for real, like all the time.
What about Roadhouse? I love some Roadhouse.
And you know what? Swayze's in Donnie Darko.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
They're remaking Roadhouse, by the way, which I feel
stupid.
That's an attack on my childhood.
Every time you tell me we're on this show, you tell me they're remaking something that I'm just mad about. Like, why would you remake Roadhouse? All right, so we'll do Into the Spider-Verse then?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. I'm good with that.
I'm just going to pull up the cast. So you want to know the cast? I want to really ruin your night. You know who's going to be starring in the remake, The Roadhouse?
Here, hit me with it.
Well, this really brings it all the way back, right? We're talking about Donnie Darko. Jake Gyllenhaal.
Okay.
Is starring in Roadhouse along with Conor McGregor.
What? Oh my god!
It's gonna be bad. This is not gonna be good.
We gotta this. Okay. That's what I'm seeing according to the interwebs. When they're never Conor McGregor, I'm guessing, is playing the Patrick Swayze role.
God, I might be out on this.
No. Gyllenhaal's Dalton. Okay, Gyllenhaal's Dalton.
Okay.
I don't know who.
Because I can get with Gyllenhaal, but man, Conor McGregor.
Yeah, I don't know who Daniela Melchior is, but that's the female lead. I'm not sure if I should be aware of her or not, but okay. All right. In like 3 years in this show, we'll be watching Roadhouse. Somebody's going to be assigning Roadhouse 2. But otherwise, I think that's it, right? We're good to go. We're ready to step aside? Yes?
Put it on the board.
Before...
Not No Way Home, Spider-Man, Daigle, Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse. Okay.
It's animated.
Yeah, I think maybe No Way Home is the one I've seen, but Spider-Verse have never seen.
Because No Way Home also is a multiverse movie itself, so...
I've seen that. You'd be surprised to know. I like some of the Spider-Man movies. I'm a little bit older when it comes to that.
Proud of you, Dean.
Yeah, I didn't mind that.
Thanos isn't in that one, Dean.
No Thanos. I was very upset. I was waiting for like an end credit, like sneak him in like after like let us know who the director was. Nope, did not make an appearance, unfortunately. John, it's week 15. We got to do it. You got to tell the people just in case they don't know. I'm sure they're aware, but it's rude for me not to ask you to tell the people where they can find you on the interwebs.
Sure. 4for4.com. There's still a rest of season sale going that will get you into the betting Discord, betting content, going to sign up, and that goes through the Super Bowl. So if you're in Ohio, there are going to be promos run as well for you to join us for DFS as well through the Super Bowl. I'll be there.
Rich?
Sharp Football Analysis regular worksheet still cranking on these full slates. Go check that out. There's weekly stuff available for you there. And listen, we got a few more fun weeks here, full weeks. Let's cherish them.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. Maybe we'll do playoffs. I'm not sure if we're doing playoffs.
We always do the first couple of weeks, I believe, on this show.
Full slates, yeah.
Yeah, all right. That'll be good times for sure. Do appreciate you guys listening to the NFL Pick 6 show. That was week 15, sponsored by Thrive. For RotoGrinders, for producer Steve, for John, for Rich, for Lee Evans, for Stevie Johnson, for Thanos.
Eric Molds.
For Eric Molds. I can't stop that. For Conor McGregor and Jake Gyllenhaal. This was the NFL Pick 6 show. We do appreciate y'all listening. Good luck this week. Go win something. We're out of here. Holler.